Hello, so I'm here with Helen and Louise, and we're going to talk about apprenticeship schemes and apprentices. We became an apprenticeship levy payer back in 2017. For those that don't know about the apprenticeship levy, any employer who has a payroll bill of more than £3 million needs to pay 0.5% of their monthly payroll into the levy. That levy can then only be used to spend on approved apprenticeship schemes that have been approved by the government. So, Helen, if you can introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Helen Chesney. I'm the Head of Learning Skills and Talent Management in Ipsos UK. I've been at Ipsos now for 5 weeks, so very new employee, but I have worked in the market research industry for 25 years.
Thank you.
Louise Maycock, Global Head of Learning at Ipsos. I've been with Ipsos for 20 years, mostly in the UK business, until about a year ago when I went into the global learning role.
Thank you. So since 2017, when we've had the apprenticeship levy in, how do you think that's helped us think about apprentices within the organisation?
So I would call it a push to move. So we dabbled around apprenticeships for a while. The Market Research Society was always asking us, will you think about apprenticeships in your business, you're a big employer in the industry, you should be doing something. And we thought about it, but the levy actually helped us do something about it, which is actually really positive. So we looked at broader apprenticeships when from 2017, so project management, analytics, etc. And then in 2019, there was a group of industry learning and development people who were keen to actually use the levy in a focused way within market research. So we realised, or we knew, that there was no market research specific apprenticeship, and as Bethan said at the beginning, you have to have an approved standard by the government. So I worked with the Market Research Society and a group to create a market research apprenticeship. And it's been really positive since there, and since then obviously it's grown towards degree apprenticeships. I think the important thing that's happened is that we've opened our world up to more skills than we would have previously. As I said, I've been here quite a long time. We were traditionally a graduate employer, which is great, and that gives us a lot of what we need. But actually, industry's changing, the world is changing, people are changing, so we needed to broaden out our talent pool and our scope. And there's some great stories of people that we've trained through the apprenticeship into the business and the wider industry. So I think it's a great thing.
You touched on a really interesting point there around skills. So as experienced people from being in the market research industry, what do you think are some of the trends and demands that we'll see moving forward in the learning and development space?
I think market researchers in general are really curious individuals, right? And that won't change, and that hasn't changed in the time that we've been in the industry. And I think if we can, apprenticeships are a great way to get curious, motivated, interested people, because they are learning as they take part in their job, which is absolutely excellent. I think all businesses, all industries are facing new challenges now in terms of AI, for example, coming in. It's going to change the way we work. It's going to change the types of work that we do. And actually being curious and motivated to learn new things is going to help people succeed in their careers as they get new skills around some of those areas.
How do you think apprenticeship schemes can help support us with that?
Well, as I said, absolutely. We get different types of people who think differently, who are motivated, who are curious, and that's exactly what we want in our business. And apprenticeships are a great way to get, as Louise said, that diversity into the business. It's really good. It's nice to have people with that don't all come through the same background and the same route.
I think the good thing about apprenticeships is the structured training that people receive, because depending on which organisation you join, for some roles you'll get different kind of training, whereas the apprenticeship standard is very clear, and the path to becoming a market research executive is very clear, and the training organisations that we work with. So it's a really nice, clear path where the skills, knowledge and behaviours are outlined clearly in terms of what people need. I think we need to be smart and adapt potentially those knowledge, skills and behaviours. So the standards need to be updated, I think, potentially regularly to make sure that that's reflected. But for me, it's about looking at kind of what we need as a business and as an industry, and then making sure that those standards are updated, because, as Helen said, the skills are changing. I think it opens more doors, because there's not just the market research executive standard that you can follow. There's project management, there's data analytics, there's business administration. I'm sure there's loads and loads more, hundreds more. So I think it's really good for people who may not want to do the traditional degree route, but know they have a passion for something, or they love computer science at school, or they're great at maths. They can find a standard that's right for them, whether that's in this industry or obviously in others.
And I think what's great for our business is that, as Louise mentioned, we designed the apprenticeship for market research. Well, Louise had an important role in designing it. So it means we get exactly the training that we want to fit the needs of our business. And I think that's what's really important. I had an L&D, I'm working in learning development. I had a learning and development apprentice in my last role, and that was extremely successful and extremely useful for our team to have her in that role, and it just goes to show there's lots and lots of areas that you can go into in a big business like ours. It doesn't have to be market research, but if you do go into market research, you're learning what we want you to learn.
What value do you think apprentices can bring to the business? You've touched on having one in your L&D team. That must have been quite an experience for you guys as an employer to have a young person join the team.
Actually, she was not a young person.
Okay.
Actually, she did her apprenticeship later on in her career, which is another route that you can do. It was just a really valuable outside influence into how we did our work, because she was learning new things about L&D from the apprenticeship scheme she was on. She brought that back into her work, new ideas, new thinking, and that was really, really a useful input into what we were doing. It was good to get that external viewpoint.
And then it's about applying their learning to the workplace.
And that's why it's good as well, because all the projects that she was doing and that you will do as an apprentice are absolutely relevant and absolutely based on the work that you're doing for the company that you're in, which is important.
Because just to say, there's 20% what they call off-the-job learning, which is really important. So when off the job is not quite as it sounds, but it might be a day, a week, or they might combine it in a month or whatever, but that off-the-job learning is a real investment for the company and for the individual. I'm going to answer your question with my answer, Bethan, which is what do apprenticeships bring? And for me, it's diversity, diversity of thought. The types of people that I've met who've done apprenticeships and have brought different things with them from their background, their experience, has been really invaluable. So you don't have that kind of always the kind of traditional grad profile. So that's really important, I think. And that's one of the key things when we were designing the apprenticeship, was how do we get people from different backgrounds into the market research industry, which is really important.
Because we're a people business and we need to understand people, and so we need to have different people to understand the different people that we're talking to, so it's important.
Yeah, so we're reflecting the society that we live in
and that we
today,
are that we are trying to understand.
What would be your advice to those looking to take on an apprentice within the organisation, or as an L&D practitioner looking at what apprenticeship skills you could employ within the business to upskill existing employees?
I would say absolutely do it. I mean, for all of the reasons that we've talked about today, if you've got room in your team for new thinking and for somebody who's going to be really focused on learning and being curious, and absolutely don't hesitate and do that.
And as Helen mentioned, and I think it's really useful to look at different routes for people into the business. So as Helen explained with her L&D person, this is not just about young people who don't want to go to university, the levy, as we mentioned earlier, pays for learning activities and training within the business. So we talked about different skills that are needed. I talk a lot about upskilling and reskilling in my role at the moment. So how can an organisation use levy funding to think about how they can upskill and reskill employees towards the skills that we need in the very near future?
How do you think we can raise the profile of apprenticeship schemes, whether that's within an organisation or outside of the organisation, to bring more apprentices into a business?
I think things have changed and they've definitely grown over the last few years. So many large, medium and small employers offer apprenticeships now, but I still don't think it's enough. And one of the challenges, I think, is that students, but also their parents, don't know enough about it. I've got teenage sons and the apprenticeships weren't a thing when I was younger, so it's difficult for people to know where to start. So I think there's something about industry linking up with schools to make sure that link is there. Something about generally just how large and medium employers advertise and raise the profile of their apprenticeships and what that means, how long they are, etc. Degree apprenticeships obviously very popular at the moment. There's not a huge amount out there. But I think it's engaging with students, schools and parents somehow via websites or careers fairs, just to show the amount of opportunities that are available.
And Helen, I know that you have teenage children. Are you experiencing something similar with Louise?
Yeah, I am. It's an interesting time when they're trying to work out their next stage and their next step in life. And luckily at my son's school, he does get people in to talk about the apprenticeships that are available around where we live. And so he understands that's a route that might be interesting for him and he's investigating that. So I think, as Louise said, it's just about getting those links into the schools so that the children themselves get excited, and also it's an absolutely viable and an absolutely great next step for them to take, especially if they're not sure that university might be for them.
And do you find that the schools are supportive of this? Are they talking to students about it, or do you think they still push the university agenda?
I've seen a change. So when I first started working with the school partnerships here maybe 10 years ago, they seemed very university and degree led. I work as an enterprise advisor at my son's school, and we are 100% behind apprenticeships. We are doing a lot of work to push apprenticeships. So I think that's changed. I think schools now see the value of an apprenticeship route, and working with local kind of councils and employment organisations is good.
And I absolutely think it depends on the school and the industries that you have near me. So where I live in a place where there are big, huge car manufacturers nearby, like your Rolls Royces and your Aston Martins and your Jaguars, and they all offer great apprenticeships because it is a really viable route into the industry through engineering or whatever. So I think it is about employers making those links and driving that discussion with the schools, because it is a really good route into them widening their pool of talent as well.
Thank you very much.